My name is Sarah Hine. I'm the transfer counselor here at Prairie State College. I'm here with Ricardo Martinez and Christian Ponce, both graduates from Prairie State this year, class of 2021. Before we get started into the real reason you're here, I want to first say thank you for joining us. And as I mentioned, as I was starting the recording, we are recording this. I am going to post it to the YouTube channel I maintain for Prairie State students going on for their bachelor's degree. During the presentation, we ask if you have any questions, ask it in the chat. Feel free to, we will be checking that along the way to answer them. We will also have time at the end where we will stop the recording when we're done, and you can unmute and ask questions if you want to ask any, if you prefer that way of asking questions. A quick heads up to you, if you joined using your Prairie State email, logged in through your Prairie State account, you were able to get right into the session. If you had to wait for me to admit you, you were using a different account, you're still welcome. I'm still happy to have you here, but I'm not going to be able to email you follow-up info. The way Google works, I only get the emails to follow up with if you came through your Prairie State email. So if you join through a non-Prairie State email, just email me. My email's on the screen. And it'll be here at the end too. And let me know if you want to get the presentation, because this presentation, anything that is purple is a link for you to connect on and get more information. All right, let's get going to all the good stuff. So first we're going to start off, I just pretty much do things alphabetically because I love all things equally, and so we can't choose preferences. So starting off alphabetically, we've got Ricardo Martinez is joining us. He is a Jack Kent Cooke Foundation, undergraduate transfer scholar this year. He was a finalist for the scholarship. This is a scholarship that only 72 were given out throughout the United States. It is for community college students specifically who have never attended a four-year university. He is going to, and you have to be completing an associate's or almost complete with an associate's. You have to be finishing up your sophomore year at a community college before you can apply to this. Ricardo shared information. He got updated information from the foundation. So we just hot off the presses, they've increased the amount. So the stuff you got emailed was the previous amount that they supported people, which used to be $40,000 a year. And now it's up to $55,000 a year for up to 3 years. So as a finalist, he now has access to these incredible resources to, generally that means you're going to be fully covered wherever you're going to next. The Jack Kent Cooke Foundation also for people who are scholars that achieve this level now, when they're done with their bachelor's and the first few years after their bachelor's, if they want to go on to graduate school, they can apply for additional funding up to $150,000 for their master's or PhD. So I'm going to talk more about both of the scholarships that Ricardo and Christian earned later, but that's just kind of a heads up. It's an amazing accomplishment. There are millions. I looked up, there's more than 2 million, I think it's 3 million community college students throughout the United States. And Ricardo is one of 72 students to get this scholarship. So Christian Ponce is also here. He also earned a highly prestigious, very competitive scholarship, the Dream US National Scholarship. So if you live in Illinois, that's the scholarship that you would apply for if you're a dreamer, undocumented, or you meet special requirements that this scholarship has created. I'll go into that later. But the Dream will support students for up to $33,000 for their bachelor's degree. So this is designed for people earning their associate's degree, going on for their bachelor's degree, and some scholars can even be eligible for additional stipends of up to $1,000 a year for books. So congratulations, Christian and Ricardo, and thank you for joining us today to talk to your fellow students about your path, things that helped you, and we're going to get into that now. So Ricardo, do you want to talk about your plans after Prairie State now?
Yeah, hi everyone, my name is Ricardo Martinez, and before I start, I just want to say that last year, I told Sarah this a couple weeks ago. Last year, Sarah had one of these sessions with like another set of students who were also, very high achieving and everything. And I was there as watching, in the audience. And now I'm the one presenting now. So it's interesting how this kind of went, full circle. And now I'm the one presenting, talking about the scholarship. But hopefully you guys can learn something from our experiences too. So for me, I'm an electrical engineering major. So for me, I wanted to stay in state, really stay close to home. So I just focused mainly on, in-state colleges. So I got accepted to Bradley University. I did apply to University of Kentucky because it was a free application. So, I just thought I'd just throw my bone out there, because it's free. And, these application fees do add up at the end. So why not just throw my bone out there just because. I also got accepted to the University of Illinois in Chicago, also Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, and Northern Illinois too. I did get rejected from University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, but I'm happy to say that I'll be attending SIU Carbondale in the fall. And for me, really, my reason of choice was it was always fit. Fit. I feel like it mattered most to me because yeah, I could be at this high name university, but I know if I wasn't comfortable, I wouldn't do well. But and then at SIU they have smaller classes, which I prefer really, and all this stuff that really made me more comfortable to say that I'll be wearing maroon and white in the fall.
Wonderful. Thank you. While you were mentioning application fees, did you have to pay application fees at any of the schools you applied to?
Um, Actually, a lot of them were free. If you sometimes you have like a certain time period which they have it free. Like for SIU, it was free for like a month, so you had to make sure within that month's time frame you had to apply. And the same with University of Kentucky. I think for one of them, I forgot which one. I did have to pay. It was for UIC. Yeah, they had to pay an application fee. But for University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, I got the fee waiver, so I didn't have to pay for that one.
Excellent. Yeah, I know universities, there are so many ways to not have to pay application fees. I had a feeling a majority you did not, so I just wanted to check in. So if you are planning to apply to universities and you want to check in on application fees, I actually have videos on my YouTube channel giving you pointers and giving you links for getting those waived. And I talk about that later. So we're going to move on to Christian's transfer plans. Want to share about those?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Christian Ponce. I'm a history student. So, yeah, these are the schools I applied for. I applied at Northeastern and UIC and Urbana-Champaign. The only one I got denied from was Urbana-Champaign, but the other two were, accepted me, very as quickly as they could. But I'm happy to say I will be going to UIC in the summer. That's for me like the place I want to be at, and it's overall really a surreal experience. I don't know, like winning that scholarship and actually being able to like do the things I want to do now.
That's wonderful. And I don't know if I heard you say, what caused you to choose going to UIC?
Honestly, I love the city. I think it's like right, it's dab slab right there. Like I could just walk, I could see Willis Tower, like, I don't know, like a few blocks away. Like it's just really, it's insane. Like how, like, I don't know. I just love that school and I love the city. So for me, it's just a perfect fit.
Okay, wonderful. So we're going to next move into the activities and accomplishments that Ricardo and Christian did, because that is a really big part of being successful with competitive applications. That could be for scholarships, competitive schools, internships, whatever kind of programs you might want to be going for. They want to see good grades, of course, but in addition to that, knowing that you're engaged and you're providing this evidence of excellence, or providing this evidence that you're interested and you're curious, you're going to make the most of resources, because scholarships or universities have limited resources. They only have so many people they can fund, or so many spots that they can accept. So they're going to prioritize the people that will make the most of it. So Ricardo, why don't you kind of share with everyone, you put this slide together of activities you did while you're at Prairie State. And both Ricardo and Christian were here for 2 years. So that means approximately 2/3 of their time at Prairie State was remote, and they still were able to engage in all of this excellence and still go on to be getting essentially full tuition scholarships or more to where they're going. Ricardo, do you want to talk about what you did here at Prairie State?
Yeah, so I was pretty involved. So I was a vice president of the sustainability club. I was a treasurer for the Student Government Association. I was also a STEM club secretary. I was also a math tutor and also a Phi Theta Kappa member. And also I did earn the 2021 PTK All Illinois team, academic team. And also I was a part of NCAS, which is a cool NASA program we'll talk about later too. And so about involvement, I feel like people like don't realize how much involving can do for you. And I echo what Sarah was saying. You know, when competing with these high competitive applications, everyone's going to have the best grades, right? So either way to kind of stand out, and this isn't the only way of standing out, but it's a good way of standing out and being unique in your application. And if you see this slide, all my experiences, I was in a lot of leadership positions, which is also makes you look really good too. Um, and also, yeah, so being involved also leads you to like other opportunities you don't know that will happen to you. Like if you look at this slide, a lot of things here are connected. So if I wasn't a part of sustainability club, I wouldn't have done student government. If I wasn't in STEM club, I wouldn't have done NCAS or knew what it was about. And you know, if I wasn't a PTK member, I wouldn't have gotten the all academic team either. So being involved, you know, it could do a lot. It could do a lot for something you won't know that something's gonna happen later too. And I want to say something. Yeah. So like Sarah said, a lot of it was online, unfortunately too, because you know COVID, obviously. But I think you know when you're applying to these applications, they know what you're going through in a sense, right? It's online. It's been more difficult over the last year to be involved, but I think because you're involved and also with these, you know, not the best circumstances, it makes you look even better, right? It's like, yeah, you know, the circumstances and the environment wasn't what I was expected, but I still, you know, I was still involved. I was still doing stuff, which I think makes you look pretty good too. And you know, you don't have to be in every club. You know, you don't have to be as involved as I was, but I think that being involved can do so much for you. And also, it's also about quality over quantity. Like, I feel like being in smaller amount of clubs, but having leadership positions is more important than being in every club, right? So I say it's about quality over quantity because you know applications want to see that you're involved, and through these opportunities, you also you know volunteer and do a lot of cool stuff too. You know, in my experiences, I had a lot of fun. You know, I enjoyed what I was doing. So yeah, being involved, I would say, makes your overall college experience just better. I would say.
Yeah, there's been research like with high school, and I think it applies to college as well, that people that are involved in high school leave liking their high school experience more. And it's the same college concept for college too. What about the time commitment? So that's quite a list. You were a leader in multiple things. How is your time commitment doing this?
Right. So people think I feel like I get like a lot of these reactions when people say clubs. A lot of people think that you know, oh, clubs it's such a big commitment. You know, I don't know if I have enough time, and that's fair. You know, everyone has their own life outside of school, but like I would describe it as you get more out of it than the time you put in. I mean, these club meetings are usually you know once a week for like an hour, and it's not that much I would say. And of course, if you want to have a leadership position, maybe it's a little bit more responsibility, but honestly, it's not that bad. And you know, with leadership, also, you don't have to know how to be a good leader to, to become a leader. And that was something I kind of learned throughout because my freshman year, I became, vice president of the sustainability club. And I remember, because throughout high school, I was pretty reserved, more of that quiet type of person, I would say. And I remember my first meeting, I felt like I had no idea what I was doing, because I didn't know how to be a leader, but you grow and you learn. And I think that being involved in these leadership positions also gives you the ability to grow and to improve on a lot of skills. Like right now, I'm a way better public speaker because of my experiences, which is something I wouldn't have said, at the end of high school.
Excellent. Did it cost you anything to be involved with any of these groups?
No, it was, clubs are free, except if you want to be a Phi Theta Kappa member, it does require a fee. But honestly, that's worth it because with the Phi Theta Kappa, it almost opens up to, like, a lot of other scholarship opportunities specifically for Phi Theta Kappa members. So honestly, I think it's a good investment. You might get a big scholarship from, not that much.
Yeah, that's something I was definitely going to make sure we shared today. So Phi Theta Kappa is a national honor society. Prairie State has a chapter for it. They have rules about like when you can join, how to be eligible. You need at least a 3.5 GPA or higher and at least 12 college credits completed at Prairie State to be eligible. I believe they only let you sign up in fall or spring. Later in the presentation, I have a resource link to it where it has the email of the person to sign up. It is a one-time lifetime fee of, I believe it's still $80. They have not changed it for many years to sign up. So it's a one-time cost. But when you get this Phi Theta Kappa, that kind of builds. So it makes you eligible for national scholarships through the PTK system, or this academic distinction that Ricardo got, the PTK All Illinois Academic Team. That is a huge thing. And when he adds that onto applications, because usually you get it after you've submitted the applications, when you notify universities you received it, that does bump you up. Like it kind of helps you get prioritized over other people. So Phi Theta Kappa, in addition to the national scholarships and the national academic recognitions, it also, universities have scholarships if you attend them that you could be applying for. Sometimes you're getting an extra $1 or $2 grand a year because you joined PTK while you were at your community college, because this is only for community college students. That's the only way to become PTK. Sometimes it is a requirement plus GPA and some other things to be competing for full tuition or full ride, which would be full tuition, room and board scholarships. So it is awesome. It is well worth the investment. Also, in addition to joining the National Society, you could become active in a club, a PTK club we have. You don't have to, so you can join it without joining the club. Though I do recommend it, because that is good for people of all majors to connect. And if you want to make the most of your education, you want to learn from others, you want to learn more than you can learn by yourself, being part of groups makes that happen. Just like you were talking, Ricardo, about how these things kind of were connected and they built on each other. Math tutoring, you got paid to do that, right?
Yeah, I did. It was just nice, earn some money while just being in school.
Yeah, so wonderful. All right, so let's move on to Christian. So Christian, let's talk about what you did during your time at Prairie State.
Yeah, of course. I was I guess like really the like cherry on top of it all was like this being the student trustee of my college, which was like, I didn't realize how much importance that had until like I actually got into it. It's like, wait a minute, I actually have a voice in the school? What? This is insane. But overall, like for sure, like, for me, that one came out of a genuine place of like wanting to be a representative for students. So that one really was like my favorite, and arguably it wasn't as time consuming as I thought it was. I think a lot of people do think like you have to spend so many hours like doing stuff, but like in reality, not so much. Like I went to like a trustee meeting like at the end of each month for like about less than 2.5 hours. Like it was not at all like a big time commitment as people may think it is. And but that was during my sophomore year. Well, actually, like I was here at Prairie State for about 3 years, so that was in my third year that I was able to do that. And for my first and second year, I was a member of Sustainability Club and All Land Alliance, where I was able to serve like not just being a member, but also be officer roles and those positions as well. Well, at least in those clubs as well. And I worked 30 hours a week, all on top of this. So it's like I have to pay for school somehow. Did it this way, and again, like it's difficult because there's gonna be days where like you need to finish your work by like Monday or Sunday or whatever due date it is, and then like you just come home tired. So you're like, oh my gosh. But for me, I'm a master procrastinator, so don't follow my advice. Like in terms of like starting your assignments at like 7 at night when they're due at like 12. Actually get it on the last day. So but overall, like really just like make sure to be like, how do I describe this? Like really organized in that, like because I was still able to like have like a social life outside of this. Even like I'm surprised too. Like it's weird, but overall, like even then, like I did a bunch of stuff in high school. I've always been involved. So for me, I did track and cross country again. Like I'm not coming to my house until like 7 at night and like tired. And I was also part of an M. Arthur's youth group for a while, which is where like a lot of like my interests and like the community like stems from.
Great. And the All Latin Alliance, you were not only a member of it, but you also served being part of the Student Government Association to report back to the group from the SGA, I believe, correct?
Yeah. So
Wonderful.
I was a liaison, I think is the word for it. Like,
okay. Yeah. And his student trustee position, to let you guys know, is a position you run for, and you do it for the academic year. Sorry, I misspoke. I was thinking you had been here for 2 years. So 3 years. About half your time was traditional in person and half was this very unique way that we've all been living. And we're coming out of. Yay. So I appreciate you also did all this while you worked 30 hours a week. So it's good for people to see we can juggle these things. We have to, if we can make time for it, these resources are here. Later on, I am going to give you guys more information about a whole variety of groups, coworkers, professors, people at Prairie State you can be connecting to kind of explore that, to see what your path is next. Let's see, you talked about time commitment. Cost was free, I assume. Oh, so before we move on, both Christian and Ricardo, what would you say to your fellow students that are thinking of joining a club, or we're like, no way am I going to join a club, that I don't see the benefit for it? What would you say to them? Because I think they are very valuable personally. But what do you think?
You want to go first, Ricky?
Yeah, I'll go first. I mean, I would say that, I mean, you don't have to go to every meeting. There's days where I couldn't make it, and that's fine. But I mean, I feel like people, when they think of clubs, like they often forget about like the social aspect it brings too, which I also think is pretty valuable. And throughout my experiences, my involvement, I met friends that will last a lifetime. I met so many great people. I've done so many great things which I would cherish for the rest of my life. So I think if everything's worth it, and I feel like the time commitment's fine. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's more so like I think just go for it. Like there really is benefit to it. Like, and it's also fun. It's don't think you like it's just gonna be like all work and no like fun. But like it really is fun because you do meet a lot of really cool people and you build up the connections to like ask for a letter of rec, which is like insanely important when you're applying to these scholarships. So keep that in mind as well.
And that's a wonderful transition. So now we're going to be kind of moving on to applying. So this application slide could be kind of applying to scholarships, applying to universities, applying to internships or other kinds of programs that you might want to do. So ahead of time, Ricardo, Christian, and I spoke about kind of some tips, things to share with you guys, and then we'll talk about letters of recommendation next. So Kristen, I think you already talked about like procrastination. That is something I struggle with as well. So for me, starting earlier than I think I should is something I've learned to help deal with it. Why don't you guys kind of unmute and go ahead and talk about any tips that you have for people?
So what I did is that I focused on all my applications mostly over winter break. And, I wanted to do that because I didn't want to deal with it during the semester, especially, winter break. I had more free time. So I thought that was, a good time just to get everything done and get it out the way. Because, later, you also might be applying for other scholarships, right? Or other applications. You don't want to be like, oh, but I have to do something else, right? Which I could have done earlier, too. And also, also when you start, you want to know when the application is due, which is the first thing you should do, right? Because you want to know how much time you have. And maybe you want to sort some things out and do an application first because it's due first. And also make sure for letters of recommendation, I ask, way before break, because I don't really want to bother my professors over winter break. That's their time off too. So I just ask, just make sure to ask and give them time, because they have their own life and their own, grades to grade and everything. So yeah, that's what I did. And yeah, also essay advice too. For a lot of these applications, you have to write essays. And what I did, I went to the writing center virtually, of course. And every week I was with a tutor, and she was helping me, make my essay better. And I remember at the beginning, I was like, yeah, my essay is pretty good. It doesn't need much refinement. But like at the end of the first session, she was like, yep, tear this whole thing down. And once she said like, yeah, I have some things to fix. But yeah, that's what I did. And I feel like that's a good way to approach it without having to feel like I'm rushing everything, just taking my time too.
I think one thing like that really doesn't, like I think Ricky touched on it, but like the essays is like, I don't know. I thought they were a lot easier than I thought they would be. Like it's just because I was very worried about like, oh my gosh, I got to get everything perfect. And then at the end of the day, I realized, wait a minute, I should just speak from the from the heart. It really does come from the heart. Like it's kind of weird. Like it's usually I don't want to be like cynical about it or anything, but like letting like these organizations know like why you're doing the things you're doing, and like what inspires you is really important to like stand out, because like it's like you and thousands of or like hundreds of or thousands of other students who are applying. So it's really important to like be true to yourself and be true to them, because that's the only way really I think you're gonna like do what you want, or at least get what you want to accomplish.
I love that, because you'll hear, if you read books or ask for advice about essays, even talking to me, I mean, there's generic things that we'll say, things we'll do to kind of get you starting, but ultimately you need to write the essay that's right for you. Of course, reading what the organization wants you to write about, and it's not a set template or formula, and it's one of those I always kind of walk the tightrope of wanting to share information and help people, but also not sharing so much that they feel it they have to write in a certain way. So yeah, everyone's essay is different. I've even seen essays be successful that were almost like creative writing. They were still nonfiction. They were about the student and their lives. But they wrote it in this very creative way. Or sometimes they're just in standard ways we're used to. I remember the very first thing, the tips, Ricardo said, check the due dates first. Some of these due dates are early. I'm going to have information later. Some of them November or December, you may be applying for the next August. Over winter break is excellent. It is very common to have deadlines in December or early in the spring semester for a lot of these bigger things, more competitive things. And your professors, the people you're asking for winter break, aren't obligated to be even checking their emails. So if you haven't asked them beforehand, you could be missing deadlines. And giving yourself extra time is always a beautiful thing. So last piece, before we kind of move on to general information I prepared to share for, we have letters of recommendation, but before we move to that, Ricardo and Christian, were there specific, like you mentioned the writing center, departments, people, offices that were especially helpful in you figuring out how to get involved on campus, being involved on campus, going for these programs or applications?
Well, this was during my freshman year when things still in person, but hopefully this happens, soon. But the involvement fest at the beginning of the semester is really important. That was when all the clubs came together and kind of pitching your idea. So that's what, and it was actually Christian who invited me to the sustainability club, which thank you, Christian. But that's where I got involved, and that's why I started seeing everything that the college could offer me. And be like, okay, I could go there, and I could, oh, this looks cool, stuff like that, which I think was really vital to my involvement. And also, of course, the writing center. My tutor, I forgot her name, but she was really cool. We met like, every week. She was like, "Yeah, go write something else. Go fix this, fix that." She was, on me for me to keep improving my essay, of course. And yeah, also I feel like having another set of eyes on your essay is also, pretty helpful because, when you're writing in your own words, it's kind of hard to like zoom out and see what's actually being said because when you're writing, you know what you want to say, but sometimes it doesn't even fully translate. So that's how I would say how I did.
Was there anything you wanted to add, Christian? Offices, departments, or people that were helpful that we didn't talk about already that were helpful in your process?
Yeah, I think like talking to like you, Sarah, were like really helpful. Like yeah, like my own person, like the academic advisor I talked to at Prairie State was also very, instrumental. Like all like it really isn't like a thing you do all by yourself. It really does is like helpful to have like other like a supporting cast of people who like really do push you. And these people for sure pushed me. So yeah, I'm very thankful for it. Like I really wouldn't have gotten like where I was without them. And I'm very appreciative of them.
Thank you. Yeah, advisors, everyone here, whoever helps you work with your schedule, be sure you're telling them about your goals because they could be telling you who else to be talking to. Like Christian said, his advisor connected him with me, and then I can share more information, and then he can take it and make of it what's right for him. So I want that for all of you guys on this call or watching the video later. Awesome. Okay, so I added in a slide for letters of recommendations because they almost are always required if anything is competitive, if there's limited spots, if it's worth more money, if it's a harder to get into school or program. Always before you list someone or put their email in or say you're going to be using them as a recommendation, always contact them by email or in person or phone and be sure they're okay with that. Be sure to pick someone who knows you well and they've worked with you either professionally, like at a job or volunteer position, or academically, so they've been a professor of yours. Advisors can be helpful, myself as well. Sometimes the questions letters of recommendations ask for, we don't have that same kind of interaction with you, so sometimes we want to write a great letter, but we can't address the questions they're asking. So always be sure you have at least one person that you've worked for or been your teacher if you have multiple recommendations. They generally don't want friends, family, or clergy members to be writing the letters. Groups, organizations generally don't want that. You want to choose people who have seen your ability directly, usually through work or the classroom. And although that's sometimes myself or your advisors have seen that, and we can still write a great letter, so it can change. And then choose people that are good with deadlines and are well written. Someone might think wonderfully of you, but if they miss the deadline, that's a lot of stress you didn't need, and that's not a good situation. General rule, I mean, there's not any general rule, but if you give them a month's notice before the deadline is there, that's a great idea in case maybe they were on vacation, or maybe it didn't work out the first person you ask and you end up asking somebody else. You want to give yourself extra time too. So when you are either asking the person to be your recommendation or after they've said yes, it could be either, this last list of information could either be when you're asking the person or after they've already said yes to the general concept. Be sure to send them a list of the activities, honors, accomplishments, the things you've engaged in, because they can write a much better letter for you if they know more about you. I know there's people I've known so much, I thought so highly of, I knew I could write a great letter for them, but I still ask them for that, and I can write so much better letters with more information. If you have a resume, that's a good thing to also send. The name of the school, scholarship, program, whatever it is that you're applying to, and a link to the information if you're able to provide that, the deadline it needs to be sent. And then there's different formats that letters of recommendation need to be. If you know what it is, it's good to share that. I know you don't always know what it is. Sometimes you just know you put an email into the computer system and you don't know what happens next. If that's what it is, just let them know. But if it says on the website, have the person send the letter to this address, making sure that they have all of that information. Sometimes it's a form someone fills out, and sometimes it's just writing a letter. Ricardo and Christian, was there anything you wanted to add into the slide before I go on?
Yeah, just really quick. I think involvement also helps with letters of recommendation because each club has like their own advisors, and a lot of these advisors are also professors. Like for example, I asked Professor Massengale for a letter of recommendation, and I knew him through Sustainability Club, and he was also my economics professor. And also, now he's the head of the PTK. So, at the end of that, he knew me pretty well because I was involved also.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Okay, so you're going to move on. Now I'm going to give everyone general information about the 2 specific scholarships that Ricardo and Christian successfully competed for. I'm also then going to share a whole bunch of wonderful other scholarships that people could be going for. But the Dream US is a national scholarship, and the national scholarship is for tuition and fees up to $33,000 for people who have graduated with their associate's degree. They do have an option for people coming straight off high school, but you have to go to specific schools for that. So it's not something you can use at Prairie State at this time that I'm aware of. The Dream is renewable if you continue to meet their eligibility requirements, which is usually a GPA and the number of credits that you have to complete, be enrolled in each semester. So Prairie State students, that eligibility, the year that you'd be earning your associate's degree is the year that you would want to be applying for the scholarship. This is specific to people who are DACA or have temporary protected status, or if you meet the Dream US immigration eligibility criteria. So this is specifically for people that are have the documentation undocumented. So if you've come to the US before November 1st of 2015 and before the age of 16, you most likely would meet their eligibility requirements, even if you don't have DACA or TPS. You'd have to, for the Dream, you have to qualify for in-state tuition if you go to a public partner college, or you'd have to go to one of the private partner colleges. And the partner colleges, so they work with specific schools throughout the country. I went ahead and put together the list on the screen of those in Illinois that are partner colleges. So Dominican, Illinois College, IIT, you guys can see that list. The deadlines for a lot of scholarships haven't been updated for next year. So almost everything in this presentation is the most recent year's deadlines or the common pattern of deadlines. They can change. I have seen deadlines change from year to year. So always check that. That was something Ricardo had put on our applications on an earlier slide. Check the due dates first. So this last year, the Dream opened its application in November. Deadline was in February. So that'd be the time to be working on it. These are going to their website, emailing them, or calling them. You can find out more information. Reach out. If you have questions, reach out to the organizations. That actually can make you look more positive. It's never a drawback. It's showing you have an interest in it. This last piece, the kind of quote I put at the bottom of the screen, I put this here for a reason, just kind of underscore it. It actually summarizes what I was thinking about for this whole session. So what they prioritize in their application review process and the bolded parts, they focus on your grades, standardized test scores, and those have become less important. I'm very happy to say those seem to be more optional as things are going on. Participation in advanced courses. So whatever your major is, like, are you taking things for your major? If you're an engineering major like Ricardo is, are you taking calculus and calculus-based physics, jumping into the hard stuff and still doing well? And then extracurricular activities, including volunteer work, community service, and essays. These bolded section here, this is a great summary of what I tend to see everybody prioritizing. Scholarships, competitive schools. They want to look at you as a whole person, not just your GPA, but what'd you take? What's your major? What else have you been doing in addition to school? So it's just kind of an overview of things to think about. All right, the Jack Kent Cook Undergraduate Transfer Scholarship is the one that Ricardo got, and it's just bumped up its annual coverage to $55,000 a year for up to 3 years. And then students who have that have the option to apply for more funding if they want to go on to grad school, up to $150,000 a year. So that's over over $300,000 of possible funding for your school. It's a beautiful thing. They typically have about 1,500 applications each year. It was a little lower this year, and that's actually a benefit I want to point out to all of you. All of you are still in school. You are persistent. That's automatically showing persistence. You're coming to this. You're watching this later, whatever it is. You are engaging in these things, and so sometimes you have less people to compete with. He still had plenty of people to compete with, but the applications were down a little bit this year, and I've heard that for some other things where sometimes spots are still open where normally there would never have been an open spot in something, or sometimes the deadlines are getting extended this year. So you're showing by still being engaged and going for this, and I think that's going to be a little true next year too. It's a way of distinguishing yourself. And I feel like Ricardo also talked about that when he was talking about being active this year. So Prairie State, Jack Kent Cooke, highly competitive, really great funding for your undergrad and later grad school if you want. Prairie State, we've got a great history of success. So Ricardo got it this year. He's the one in 2021. In 2013, 2 students got the finalist and were funded by this organization. We had 4 semifinalists the last 2 years, so 2 in 2020, 2 in 2019. Now, the semifinalists did not get the scholarship money, but being designated a semifinalist makes it much more likely that the other stuff that you hopefully are also applying to, that you're more likely to get those scholarships or get into those schools that have really generous funding where you might be getting free tuition from them instead of from the scholarship agency. So next year's deadlines are not posted. It used to be a November deadline. This last year it was a January deadline, but it was over break. So it's definitely, get those letters of recommendation requests in before break is over, or before fall semester is over. They didn't post when their deadline. I don't know when their deadline will be next year yet, but you have the link. I'll send you guys this presentation. You want to sign up for mailing list. If it's something you're interested, get on their mailing list so that they send you information. Okay, to be eligible for the Jack Kent Cooke Undergraduate Transfer Scholarship, you need a 3.5 or higher GPA. You need to have financial need. So if you're family, if you're under 24, it'd be your family. If you're 25 and older, it'd be you yourself, or if you're married, your household. The annual gross income has to be below $95,000. You need to be a sophomore in a community college as of January 1st, or be a recent community college graduate. You need to be planning to enroll full-time in a bachelor's program at an accredited university the next fall. So that'd be a year from now. Fall 2022 is what we're thinking about now. And you cannot have enrolled in or attended a 4-year university before. They have a couple exceptions, and they have it on their website. If you did attend a 4-year university, but you withdrew during your first semester, you might still be eligible. I have seen that happen. One of our semifinalists had reached out to the organization to confirm about that, because they had that situation and they were still encouraged to apply and still got that designation. Okay, so now other scholarship opportunities. We mentioned Phi Theta Kappa, so the All Illinois Academic Team that Ricardo got. Yes, you actually have to apply through, and I linked to it here, the PTK website. And it's actually a common application system for a variety of scholarships. If you start filling out the application linked on this page, it will let you know which scholarships you're eligible for, and then you might have to write one essay for this one and another essay for the other one, but you still use the one application for all of them. The deadlines are usually December 1st. I don't think that has changed recently. Other kinds of scholarships. So the scholarships we've been talking about so far, the DREAM, Jack Kent Cooke, and Phi Theta Kappa are what I call external scholarships. They're from an outside group, not from the school itself. So you get the scholarship as long as you go to a school that meets their criteria. You take it wherever you're going. Internal scholarships are the ones being given to you from the school that you are going to attend. So an internal scholarship, there are some schools that have very generous ones, or full tuition ones. They might give out one or they might give out multiples. Stackable and renewable are scholarships. Stackable scholarships are, you can add them onto each other. Some are not stackable, where it's like a big number and another big number and you just have to pick whichever one. But stackable is you can have all of the scholarships, and that's where they just get added into each other. Renewable is wonderful. That's always a good thing to prioritize if you're able to, which means you get it as long as you keep meeting criteria. You may need to reapply each year, but as long as you keep meeting criteria, you get the scholarship every year. Some are just one-time scholarships, so you want to keep an eye out for that. On this presentation, the second to bottom link has a three-page document where I go into more detail of some of my favorite scholarship programs, like GSU has an early advising program that if you sign up for it, before you've completed more than 45 credits, you meet certain criteria. It's a lot of detail I won't be able to go into right now. I have links where you can read more about this stuff. But you could potentially be competing for full tuition scholarships at GSU. More than 65 Prairie State students have gotten it through that program in the last 10 years. St. Xavier, we have another program that students, Prairie State students signing up early before you earn your degree with us, could be potentially competing for a full tuition scholarship there. Northeastern and Southern, so I'm trying to kind of highlight them in blue. You don't have to sign up for any program in advance for this. If you meet the qualifications, you meet the deadlines, you can be applying for these full tuition scholarships. Uniquely, Eureka Promise is income and GPA based. And if you meet all of these criteria, you apply to Eureka and you qualify for the program, it is free tuition. It's not limited spots. So also a beautiful thing. Jackson State, this is my favorite example of why it's really great to join Phi Theta Kappa. They're one of my favorite PTK scholarships. Jackson State, so this is not a program you have to sign up for early either. It's a scholarship you apply to when you're applying to the school if you want. If you get the PTK scholarship, we've had at least 3 Prairie State students get it in the last few years. It may be as many as 6. So Jackson State told me they thought 6 had gotten it in the last 7 or 8 years. I know of at least 3 that did. It's full tuition, your free housing, free room and board, and $1,000 a year for your book award, as a book of stipend. You need a 3.5 GPA or higher, your associate's degree, and you need to have joined PTK while you were at your community college. So there's more. So there's a lot to this. Those are my favorite ones, kind of give you a heads up on those. But anyone, you guys are going to be getting this presentation by tomorrow. If you didn't get it, email me, and you might not have shown up on the log if you joined from another email. And going back to the PowerPoint, scholarships information session. What I just did was give you a really quick overview of this last link here. I have a 40-minute session I recorded this year on scholarships. So highly recommend, if you want to know more, to check out that video, and you can see everything in much more depth. Okay, so that's like opportunities available to you in a select list. There's even more. It's not possible for me to write everything down that's possible throughout the United States. But the other piece of the puzzle is how to get involved, how to show your excellence beyond the classroom. So this page gives kind of a quick overview of the more common ones: getting an internship. We have Prairie State students who have had their writing published. We've had Prairie State students do research with professors. So talking to professors or career services at Prairie State are good ways to learn more about opportunities there. Definitely joining Phi Theta Kappa, that keeps coming up because it is a beautiful thing. It's very supportive of going on to more opportunities if you wish. Joining speech team or student clubs and organizations like All Latin Alliance, Black Student Union, Male Success Initiative, the STEM Club. We have things of all different topics. Joining SGA is a great way of showing leadership, but also being a leader within one of these clubs is another way to do it. Volunteering, our Prairie State Foundation has multiple opportunities to volunteer. That's another way to get involved if you can maybe just do it a few times and you can't do it as regularly. And then it's always good to get to know your professors, especially ones that are in classes related to your major, but it doesn't have to be limited to them. But get to know them and they can know about even more. Go to their office hours, talk to them before or after class. This link at the bottom of the slide takes you to another document where I put together contact more detail of what I just spoke to you about. And so internships, and I actually have the emails. So some ideas, some details, some suggestions, actual things that recent Prairie State students have done in the email of the office to connect with, or the email of the name and email of a professor. So Professor Nestel, if you're interested in pursuing getting written work that you've written published, she's a great person to connect to. These professors know that I share this information. So you don't have to have them in class first. You can reach out to them. So quite a few things there. All right, and then a few examples. So these things, pretty much every single thing that are in these handouts are there because a Prairie State student before you has actually done these things. A few things are there because I know Prairie State students are 100% capable of it, and we just haven't had someone do it and come back and tell us that they did it. So, but these are a few examples. So in 2020, while we were remote, 2 Prairie State students did national internships. These are federal internships that are paid. They were in computer science and chemistry. One of those students has been, even though he transferred on, he's graduated, he has done 2 more federal internships that were paid. He's up to 3 now, and all of these have happened since we were remote. Also, a quick heads up, Prairie State is moving more and more back to in-person. My understanding, an email went out this week to the employees starting July 6th. Offices, you pretty much come to campus, you're going to see everyone in their offices. So the remote services will still be an opportunity, but we're transitioning back. We have professors that engage in research with our students. So if you're interested in biology, Professor Hanger Lannon, chemistry, Professor Scheibot has done research recently. These professors have with Prairie State students. Prairie State students have presented the findings of the research that they've done with professors at national conferences. And the students that go to these conferences, they did not have to pay to go to it, to travel to it. People found funding so that they weren't having to pay to do these things. Prairie State students participate in regional and national competitions. Even this last year, just a few months ago, our speech team competed in the National Speech Team Conference. All right, a few more things other Prairie State students have been doing. There's paid research opportunities that's in the handout for ILSAMP, the Illinois Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation. So if you're interested in that, I have links and more information in that info sheet linked into here. NASA, and Ricardo, do you want to unmute and talk about the Community College Aerospace Scholar? So he is a student who actually did one of these. We've had multiple Prairie State students do it.
Yeah, so NCAS, it's specifically for community college students, which I thought it was pretty great. And it's like a 2-part experience, I would say. Like the first part, like you apply and everything, and they do like an online class. And that's where you learn more about, NASA, space, the solar system, more about science, stuff like that. And also throughout, you have a bunch of quizzes and modules you have to complete. And if you do well in that portion, you also get invited to the experience. So when I did it, it was virtual. But how it's supposed to be in person is they fly you out for like a 4-day weekend to like one of their NASA facilities around the country, which is pretty cool. And when people think about like NCAS and NASA, they think about, oh, it's NASA, so only STEM majors should apply. And no, that's not the case. Like one of my group members, she was a graphic designer. Like NASA needs like people from everywhere. I mean, I was looking at one of their like summer internships. Like one of them was journalism. So at the end of the day, like NASA's a business. They need like accountants and other, non-STEM majors to, complete their work.
Great, thank you. And we also had, to add to that, a Prairie State graduate, a 2019 graduate, had done in-class. There's multiple levels. So what Ricardo did, like if you wanted to keep going, there's additional aspects to the program he could keep applying for to see if he gets accepted to. We've had a couple students that have gone multiple rounds, has done multiple experiences with NASA, to the point that we had a graduate living at Kennedy Space Center for multiple months. I don't know exactly how long the internship was. When people do it to that level, NASA's theory, kind of the way that they have this set up, is if that person wants to then finish their bachelor's and apply for a job at NASA, they will find a job for them, because they're kind of testing you guys out to see if you might want to work for them later. And then pharmacy, we have at least 30 Prairie State graduates who skipped their bachelor's and were able to go straight to doctorate of pharmacy programs in the last 10 years. So a doctorate of pharmacy is unique. Unlike most other doctorates, almost every doctorate requires a bachelor's before you can apply to them, but doctorate of pharmacy, the PharmD, does not. You can take everything at Prairie State. So we have great excellence there. I just saw in the chat some question about, are some of these scholarships open for international students? So that was from a few minutes ago when I was probably talking about the handout. And some are. So Jackson State, I have had an international student get that one. Citizenship can frequently be required. When you're an international student, the angle to look for, in my scholarship handout that's linked in here, the 3-page one, I do have links that touches on that, and also additional ones for undocumented students, which I know are different issues, but those are kind of two unique categories. International students, you will probably be most successful going for schools that have really good funding, need-based funding, for students that are attending them, where they just fund you directly. So those are usually the more competitive, highly selective schools. And there's a series that I do in the fall. I bring a guest speaker to talk about that. So I know that that's a pretty big question, and I can always talk to you more about that, the person that asked that question. And anyone here, contact me, email me. I'd love to meet with you guys. I'm working this summer, so let's talk. Also a reminder, you can excel outside of Prairie State, outside of school too. So all of those things you're doing, volunteer, community service, full or part-time jobs, responsibilities you're doing for your family, those all count. Those are all things that you could be writing about or showing evidence of your excellence as a well-rounded person. Okay, so we're almost done, kind of wrapping it up. At the end, I put in here just some links for, at the beginning, the Prairie State PSC transfer planning events, info sessions, transfer fairs, and recordings. So this is all content that I have put together. Recordings are things that I've already done. So I have dedicated sessions on going for scholarships, writing essays, a whole variety, applying to universities. So the application fee waivers are in there too. The events and transfer fairs, I'm always creating everything I can new to give you more opportunities, and I put that information on the web pages linked there. I've got the link for the Writing Center, so you'll know how to sign up for assistance. Our library, their reference staff, they are experts in helping you research anything. So if you want to hear another opinion on how to research schools or international scholarships, in addition to talking to me, go check with them. They also have a transfer resource guide with more links and information sources for you on the library website. And then our career services, your advisor, your professors, these are kind of the top things I'd recommend that you guys use and look into to see that, to learn about your full range of opportunities at Prairie State and beyond. And then lastly, come meet with me. I want to talk to you guys. I want to know what your individual, we can have individual meetings. I want to know what your plans are so I can give you personalized advice of what might best fit your goals. And that was my last thing. Christian and Ricardo, thank you so much for speaking. Was there anything else that you wanted to share with everyone as you're sharing your story and what you did while you were here to go on to what you're going on to?
Pretty sure that's all for me. If anyone has any specific questions, you could ask right now. I can also put my email too if anyone wants to reach me over the summer too.
Anything you want to add, Christian?
No, I think that that covers it all for me.
Okay, great.